Thank you again. I am going to talk about the new EASL guidelines on hepatitis B. May I have my presentation? So when we discussed at the governing board a new EASL guidelines on hepatitis B, the old ones were from 2017. We discussed two things. One, there is no new drugs approved for hepatitis B. There is no new markers. Why a new guidelines? Because we are very slow in hepatitis B elimination. We are slow because we don't do screening. We include very, very few patients, and there is a need to increase screening and treatment if we would like to go to hepatitis B elimination. May I have the slides, if it's possible? Okay. And in addition, some international associations, the Chinese, produced guidelines in 2022, WHO in 2024, and American Association for the Study of the Liver will release guidelines in a few weeks in Washington in November. So Sherry has showed this morning the way that EASL works in the guidelines. There is a panel, and here you can see the members of the panel led by Marcus Comber from Hanover Medical School. Then there is another Delphi panel, because all are based in a Delphi process. And in this Delphi panel, we can see a large number of people working on hepatitis B and external reviewers. In this panel, there are people from Europe, but also people from Asia and from Africa. So I think it's a very international panel. And at the end, the guidelines that took almost 2 years were released at EASL meeting and published in Journal of Hepatology. The content of these guidelines are 10 different topics. It's almost 100 pages, too long, but you can see highlight the most important aspects. And the content are screening and diagnosis, treatment goals, treatment indications, treatment, HCC surveillance, treatment in special patient populations, prophylaxis of HBV reactivation, management of HBV in the setting of transplantation, prevention, and always open questions and future directions. I am going to focus on the hot topic, that is treatment indication. And this, I think, is one of the novelties of these guidelines. And there is statements and recommendations. So the statement is all HBs antigen positive individuals with detectable viremia are candidates for antiviral therapy. This is open the door. The indications for treatment is primarily based on HBV DNA and ALT levels, fibrosis stage, and risk of liver disease progression, and HCC. We don't need to read these 100 pages. I think in this simplified treatment algorithm summarize what is the most important and the critical steps. One, clearly, chronic HBV infection, HBs antigen positive. The second step is the degree of fibrosis. Advanced fibrosis or cirrhosis is indication of treatment. And the fibrosis can be assessed by a liver biopsy, but now a non-invasive markers, a liver elastography is preferred, and the number is more than 8 kilopascals. So if there is advanced fibrosis, Then we go to HBV DNA, and this is an important change. HBV DNA detectable, regardless of the level indication of treatment. If HBV DNA is undetectable clinically, there is no need of treatment, and we need to monitor. So the recommendation is patients with cirrhosis should be treated if HBV DNA is detectable, regardless of the level of viremia and serum ALT. A strong recommendation, a strong consensus, similar to the previous guidelines. And what is new now is that patients with advanced liver disease, that is a METAVIR higher than F3 or a liver elastography higher than 8, can be treated if HBV DNA is detectable, regardless of the level of viremia and serum ALT. So, recommendation, treat more patients. What happens if there is no advanced fibrosis? If there is no advanced fibrosis, then the level of HBV DNA matters. If the level is below 2,000, then it's important to exclude other liver diseases. And if the level is higher, similar than the previous guidelines, the recommendation is to start treatment. I would like to comment in those patients with HBV DNA below 2,000, then in these cases, with persistent normal ALT, no liver fibrosis, have a low risk of disease progression and transmission, and usually do not require immediate antiviral treatment, but they require monitoring. In patients with persistent low levels of HBV DNA, but elevated ALT, it's important to exclude other diseases. This morning, we discussed a bit about comorbidities and the frequency of associations between viral hepatitis, MASLD, alcohol. These patients that have comorbidity and more risk of disease progression, in these cases, treatment needs also to be considered or at least evaluated. And then for the classical indication, HBV DNA more than 2,000, elevated ALT or fibrosis, in these cases, a strong consensus and a strong recommendation to start antiviral therapy. Then there is important new data about patients with HBs antigen-positive chronic HBV infection, that it's also called immune-tolerant patients. So there is a statement that these young individuals, e-antigen positive with persistent normal ALT levels, no significant fibrosis, no family history of HCC, and no immunosuppressive conditions, the current evidence does not support immediate antiviral treatment. However, we know because the virus early integration, the potential benefits of early therapy. And in these cases, it's important to balance against the need for strict adherence to this long-term medication and the difficulties of achieving a rapid and complete viral suppression. So there is the recommendation that HBe antigen positive chronic infection and increased risk of HCC, hepatocellular carcinoma, should be treated. Also those with extrahepatic manifestations, those under immunosuppressive therapy, and also those with high risk of transmitting the infection. And very important, pregnant women. Pregnant women, antiviral prophylaxis should be administered to prevent mother-to-child transmission. For E-negative patients with chronic hepatitis B infection, that I think is the most frequent stage of chronic hepatitis B worldwide, this subgroup of patients are the inactive carriers. In these cases, there is a strong consensus that these patients usually do not require immediate antiviral treatment, but there are some recommendations, particularly for patients with high risk of developing HCC. And there is a very nice table with a long list of viral host factors and environmental factors associated with a high risk of HCC that we need to consider in these inactive carriers and can support antiviral therapy. What is really important is that in chronic hepatitis B, we need a shared decision-making approach. This is essential, and an open discussion between the physician and the patient, it's really, really important for the indication of antiviral treatment. Not a rule. These need to be discussed. There are some patients that prefer to be treated that stay with completely normal ALT and high levels of HBV DNA. So every case needs a discussion. And also, patients should be informed about the importance of addressing modifiable factors such as alcohol, smoking, and also comorbidities, including metabolic dysfunction. Regarding stopping treatment, there is also some new indications. One, for those patients who clear HBs antigen, the indication is to stop treatment. But for those E-negative patients that have low levels of HBs antigen, and low levels means less than 1,000 for Caucasians and less than 100 for Asian patients, we can discuss the possibility of a stop treatment with a close monitoring. And what I think is new in this guideline is this: consult an expert. I think this is important, to consult with someone that is really expert on the management of chronic hepatitis B. Nothing new about special populations, similar to the previous guidelines regarding acute HBV infection or regarding positive pregnant women or HCC. There is a new recommendation for patients with HCC, because there are several studies suggesting that TDF could be better than other nucleoside analogs. There is a strong consensus to treat patients with hepatitis B and HCC with TDF. Regarding decompensated or acute and chronic liver failure, similar indications that the previous guidelines, and co-infection, same. But what is really new, and I would like to finish my talk with this, is the importance of early diagnosis on HBV infection, prevention of transmission, ability of safe and effective treatment measures. ISEL, for the first time, advocates for population-based screening. All the guidelines advocate for risk groups factors. Now, for the first time, population screening. This is the only way to identify and to treat the majority of people with chronic hepatitis B that are asymptomatic and we don't recognize that they have hepatitis B. So if you like to spend your time and enjoy of the ISEL guidelines, please read. They are available at Journal of Hepatology, And I will also ask if you can take 5 minutes to complete this Global Liver Council survey on chronic hepatitis B virus practice patterns. Thank you very much.